Shalom Aleichem. We are learning Parashat Bamidbar, the new Sefer, the new book of Torah, Sefer Bamidbar. Another name for this book is Sefer HaPekudim. The word Bamidbar means in the wilderness. The other name, Sefer HaPekudim, means the book of accounting or countings. Like the English name for this book is Numbers. Why is it called Numbers? Because there are a lot of countings, be it people, animals, gold and silver, and so on. In fact, in this Sefer, the Jewish people are counted twice. Once in this week's Parsha and once in Parashat Pinchas. And we know that the Jewish people were counted already once when they left Egypt. By the Exodus, they were counted, and the number was the same as in this week's Parsha. Over 600,000 males between the ages of 20 and 60. Now the question arises doublefold. Number one, why is Hashem counting us 3 times? Each time the number is similar. It's about 600,000 men. The first 2 times the number is identical. Exactly the same number by Exodus and now. This is a year later. Why is Hashem counting us? Especially if the number remains the same. On top of that, we know that it's not good to count too much. When you have a specific number for something, you tend to limit it to that number. When you say, I have so much money, so you just defined how much money you have, and chas v'shalom, it might not grow. Why? Because you decreed that this is how much money I have. But what if Hashem wants to give you more? Now, with your own lips, you set a cap on your wealth. So it's not recommended to count your money. It's not recommended to count people. We try not to count too much because the Talmud says a blessing, the blessing is only found in things that are hidden from the eye. Hidden from the eye can be interpreted, they're hidden from the evil eye. Things that are hidden from the public eye, because maybe someone will have an evil eye, will look negatively and wish something bad. So things that are hidden from the public eye and the evil eye will have the blessing. Things that are shown to the public, they might have a curse on it, God forbid, because the public might have people who are jealous and maybe wish bad. There is another interpretation, and that is blessing is only found in things that are hidden from the eye. Whose eye? Your own eye. Even though you have a good eye, you wish good upon yourself. So why should you hide your own accomplishments and wealth? As we explained before, because by knowing exactly how much you have and putting a number on it, especially with the words, you limit your future growth. So why is Hashem counting the Jewish people again and again and again, 3 times in close proximity? And God knows how many people there are. He can just tell Moshe, Moshe, you should write down in your Torah that this is how many people there are. And Moshe can just write down the final number. Why count? And we have two exceptions to when it is okay to count. Normally, you shouldn't count. Normally, you shouldn't announce how much you have or how many people you are. But in two cases, it is permitted to count. One is if you're fulfilling a mitzvah. When you want to fulfill the mitzvah of charity, of separating maaser, tithing your money, separating 10%. So you need to know the total. How much did I earn this month so that I can separate 10% and distribute it to good causes? So I have to count every income that I had this month and I have to add it up. But because I'm doing it for a mitzvah, for the sake of holiness, for the sake of kindness, it's not subject to ayin hara, it's not subject to any limitation. The opposite. Hashem tells us when we give tzedakah, when we give maaser, we will be blessed. So a person doesn't need to be scared when he's counting his own money for the purpose of separating 10% maaser to give it to poor. The second time when counting is okay is when you're not counting to find the total number, but rather you're counting because you love what you're counting. Just like, let's say, a person who loves money and he has a collection of gold coins and rare coins. Out of his love for his treasure, he's just going to go through it again and count it again. He already knows the number. Everything's written, but he's counting it again because he just loves holding it and counting it. It reminds him of his fortune, of his happiness. So too it is with the Jewish people. Hashem knows the total number. He can just tell Moshe the number. Not only that, the second time the number was the same as the first. Hashem can just tell Moshe, Moshe, let's not mention any numbers, but you should know it's the same as last time. Don't even count. Don't bother. Hashem loves the Jewish people and he enjoys looking at each Jew. And he enjoys the process of counting them. Just like a king who will call together all his troops and stand them in a parade, in a show. Why? Because the king loves his power and the army represents his power and he wants to see it. Yes, he knows, he was given the report, how many soldiers there are, but he wants to see it because he enjoys it. Our sages say that Hashem counts the Jewish people like a man would count diamonds and pearls. And therefore, it's repeated again and again, and there is no, God forbid, any curse in it. The opposite. Like the Kohanim said to the Jewish people in their blessing, Ya'er Hashem panav elecha vichuneka. Hashem will shine his countenance upon you and he will give you grace. When Hashem looks at you, you receive the blessing. Just like we say in the blessing of Sim Shalom, Ki be'or panecha, through the light of your face, which means Hashem, when you look at us, Ki be'or panecha natata lanu, Hashem, you gave us, just by looking at us, all the blessings, Torah and life, love and kindness, charity and mercy. When Hashem looks at a Jew, there is a flow of kindness, of mercy from God to the Jew. And it happens constantly. Every moment Hashem is looking at us. That is why it's beneficial to always picture it, that Hashem is looking at me right now. Hashem proved himself already by telling us, count the Jewish people again. Count the Jewish people again. Again, I want to see each Jew. I want to enjoy. And through the blessing of Birkat Kohanim, Hashem said to the Kohanim, I want you to bless the Jewish people every day with my name. And mention that I am looking at them. Yisa Hashem panav elecha. Hashem will raise his own face toward you, as if we can say such a thing. Literally, that's what it means. The blessing of Kohanim, Birkat Kohanim, it says, Ya'er Hashem panav, Hashem will shine his face upon you, and Yisa Hashem panav elecha, Hashem will raise up his eyes towards you. That's how Hashem loves us, that he's constantly looking at us. And we feel Hashem's glance and gaze upon us for two reasons. Number one, to control our Yetzer Hara and our desires, and say, I can't do that because Hashem is looking. And at the same time, to feel his warm blessing, that kindness and blessing are flowing down upon me directly from God. So this is what the Torah calls counting. The Torah says, raise up the head of every Jew. It doesn't say count them, but it says raise them up for me to see. Usually, when you count, you show your superiority over the object of counting. Like at the end of last week's Parsha, it says that when you count your sheep, the baby sheep that were born that year, you count them with a stick, and you count them one by one. When you get to the 10th one, dip your stick into paint and dab it on the sheep. That's the 10th one. 10th one becomes Maaser Behema. We separate every 10th animal to be taken to Yerushalayim and eaten there. So that's when I show superiority. I put a stamp, a number, like the Germans, Yemach Shemam, may their name be erased, used to put a number on a Jew. And Hashem says, no, I'm not stamping a Jew. I'm not putting a number on a Jew. No, I'm raising up his head. I'm raising up his face, that he should be uplifted. Because when Hashem, when God counts you, when God looks at you, you are automatically raised up. Why? Because he's showering you with kindness, and also because when God looks at you, everything's revealed. There's nothing hidden. And what's revealed? Your essence, your neshama. Your neshama shines through your body, And by looking at you, by recognizing your true worth, your essence, Hashem is raising you up from mundane, from everyday, from regular, from the masses of humanity. He says, you are special. You have a soul. You are higher. Remember it. Every human being has a soul, and every Jew has a special neshama. And whoever remembers that I have a soul, he becomes free. He releases his neshama. When a person thinks of himself as the body creates a covering, a veil, a curtain. Just like when you have a powerful nuclear reactor, so powerful that you have to put a sarcophag, you have to put a cement, thick, many feet thick cement over it to contain it, because it has so much power. So too, if we think of us as a body, the body will become physical, more real, and it will cover up the powerful neshama and contain it and will not let it out. It's only when we think of ourselves as I am a spiritual being. Yes, I am in the physical world. I have a physical body, but I am a soul. Then our soul will shine through. All of a sudden we will feel spiritual, we will feel godly, and we will become unlimited. Be'ezat Hashem. So, Бог даст, если получится, на следующий год мы сделаем эти лекции на русском языке также. У нас будет отдельная, мы пройдемся через все паршиот на русском. Сейчас я должен это на английском сказать, я извиняюсь. Be'ezat Hashem, next year we will try to have a series of Russian language lectures on the Chumash, but this lecture we will do in English. I apologize. Okay, so now what's interesting is that when Jewish people are counted, yes, each one is counted individually. Each Jew is important in the eyes of God. However, Hashem reminds us constantly, again and again, almost every other sentence reminds us, lemishpechotam, according to their families, liveit avotam, according to their father's household, which means a Jew, as precious as we are, but we were placed into a society. We were placed into an extended family and into an immediate family, which means a Jew cannot be successful by separating himself, by developing the relationship with God alone. That doesn't work. Hashem reminds us, yes, I love the Jewish people and I want to count them and I want to see all of them. I want to raise them up. But don't forget, lemishpochotam, don't forget about your family. Lebeit avotam, don't forget about your father's household, your immediate family and your extended family. It also reminds us that we need to think about our father's family, means ancestors. A Jew has to develop his own relationship with God, yes, but the Jew also has to remember the history. He has to remember what did his parents accomplish, what was their connection with God, and develop it further and learn from it. What was his grandparents' relationship with God? What were their sacrifices? His great-grandparents, and so on, to realize that I am not alone. I wasn't created in an empty world. I was created as part of humanity, as part of my society, and as part of my family. This will help us to care for others, to love others, to give to others, and also to learn to handle others, to be patient with others, to learn how to communicate with others. And this is something that is that cannot be accomplished if a person feels that I am for myself and I am by myself. The Jewish people this time were counted a little bit different than when we left Egypt. When we left Egypt, all the Jewish males from 20 to 60 were counted, and they were 603,000 with some extras. This time, the tribe of Levi was not counted. It was again 12 tribes, because the tribe of Yosef was split into Ephraim and Menashe, but the 13th tribe of Levites was not counted, which means that really we had more Jewish people now than by the Exodus. The tribe of Levi itself had about additional 22,000 men, but they were also counted differently. They were counted not from 20 years of age, but from 1 month of age, 30 days and up, and there was no upper limit. Whereas by Jewish people, they were counted from 20 to 60, the Levites were counted from 1 month and up. No upper limit. Now, when Moshe had to count the males between 20 and 60, that was easy. They all came, they all greeted Moshe, they all said, Shalom Aleichem. Moshe said, Aleichem HaShalom. And he asked them, what is your name? What is your father's name? What tribe you're from? And they recorded it. Moshe blessed him, and he went on his way. But how did Moshe count the tribe of Levites? How will the infants come before Moshe? Until they learn to walk, until their parents will allow them to independently go to the camp of Levites to meet Moshe, how are they going to come? And if you say, let their mothers bring them, that is not modest, because in olden times, it was not like today. In the olden times, there was a clear division between the community of men and the community of women. They were very careful not to cause any mistake, not to stumble, not to let any male who is not her husband see the woman and, God forbid, desire her. And therefore, it would be unthinkable that a lady should publicly bring her child in front of the assembly and Moshe. She would have to walk from all the way from her tribe, from her tent, through many tribes and many tents, and stand in front of Moshe with her baby. So the other possibility is that perhaps Moshe can visit them in their house, in their tent, and approach the crib and count. But that's also not proper, because it doesn't look good for a man who is not the husband to enter someone's private tent. Not allowed. We find that it's only a Kohen who is allowed to enter a tent when there is tzarat. But he only is allowed to enter the tent when the tent is empty. or the house is empty, that there should be no suspicion that someone is there and perhaps there is yichud, there is a private meeting between Kohen and another woman, God forbid. Therefore, they would empty the entire house, and only then a man who is not the husband was able to enter. We know from the story of Abraham that when guests came to him, he did not take them into his tent. Not allowed to take someone into your tent. Your tent is holy. It's private. Tent is like Beit HaMikdash. In our terms, it's the bedroom of the couple. And that is Holy of Holies. Only the Kohen Gadol can go into the Holy of Holies one day a year, Yom Kippur. No one is allowed to be there with him. It's a private meeting between him and God. So too, a husband and a wife have a holy union. Only they're allowed to be there, their bedroom, even when they're not intimate. Nobody has the audacity and the right to enter someone else's private bedroom. So Moshe wasn't able to enter any tent of the Jews. So how did he count the infants? So this is a question that Moshe asked himself. He said, how am I going to count the Jewish people? The Levites, they can't come to me, they're too small, and I can't go to them because it's not modest for a man to enter someone else's tent. What should we do? And Hashem said to Moshe, go count the Levites. And Moshe said, God, how can I do it? And Hashem said, go, you do your part, do as much as you can, and when you can't do any more, I will come and help you. So Moshe said, okay, they're not coming to me, I have to go to them. I'm going to go until I come to the tent, but I can't enter the tent. What's going to be, I don't know. God is going to take care of it. So Moshe went. He came to the first tent. And as soon as he approached, divine voice came out and said, in this tent there are so many babies that cannot walk yet. And Moshe wrote their names down. He went to the next tent. As soon as he approached it, the divine voice came out and said, in this tent there are so many babies that cannot come out. These are their names. And he wrote them out. This would make the job of censor collectors so much easier. They don't have to knock on the door, they don't have to ask any questions. They just come to the house and the divine voice comes out. How many people live in that house? But Baruch Hashem, they don't have access to divine voice. Only Moshe had that. But what we learn from this is, just like God told Moshe, you do your part and I will do the rest. We have a rule that God doesn't ask of us to do anything that He didn't give us ability to do. So any Jew, when he approaches his obligations in Torah, has to say, I am ready, able, and willing to fulfill the entire Torah. Why? Because it is obligatory upon me. Therefore, I can. But what if I can't? Can't be. If God asks you to do it, must be you can. And therefore we have to believe in ourselves and do our part. It might look to us that it cannot be done. And that is true. By ourselves we cannot do it. It's only when we do our part, God will take care of the rest. We don't need to accomplish. We just need to do. As it says in Pirkei Avot, Lo alecha hamelacha ligmor. You're not obligated to finish the job. but you